Alright gang, today we're going to be talking about sociolinguistics, which is a fancy word for the study of language within a social context. Specifically, we'll be discussing the phenomenon of hypercorrection, both now and in antiquity. So, I think it's only appropriate to start with a clip from Family Guy.
With one of the larger groups.
Oh, that's a great idea, Brian. Maybe you could join PETA.
Join me for what?
No, PETA, the organization.
What organization?
PETA.
What?
PETA is an acronym, PETA.
No, I'm not. I'm Catholic. Are we really doing this?
No, PETA, I'm just saying, maybe if this meeting goes well, Brian could be part of a PETA rally.
Somebody's having a rally for me now?
No, for PETA.
That's me. I'm Peter.
I'm not talking about you, PETA. I'm talking about PETA.
Somebody better have something to say to me pretty damn soon, or I'm going to have something to say to them. I am very busy. I think Betty White is in PETA. That doesn't even make any sense!
So, as you can see, there's a little bit of confusion created by the fact that the name Peter can sound very similar to the name of the organization, PETA. Now, who offhand can tell me where the Griffin family hails from? Just shout it out. Rhode Island, exactly. And it's very characteristic of northeastern states to sometimes omit what's called the post-vocalic R, or the letter R, when it's after a vowel. Now, Matt, I'm going to pick on you because you're from the Boston area. What is the running joke about stationing your vehicle on the grassy Cambridge campus?
Park your car in Harvard Yard.
Exactly. Park your car in Harvard Yard. So that shows the absence of the post-vocalic R. Now, back in 1966, a famous sociolinguist named William Leboff performed what he called the fourth floor experiment. He went to 3 different department stores in the Boston area. He went to Saks Fifth Avenue, where most of the clientele and employees are of the upper class, Macy's, which is middle class, and S. Klein, which is lower class. He would ask employees a question that was supposed to elicit the response, fourth floor. For example, where might I find men's slacks? After that, he would ask them to repeat it, and he recorded his findings to see how often that post-vocalic R was present or absent. And he found, as you might expect, that it was most commonly present in the upper class, least so in the lower class, and somewhere in the middle at Macy's. What's more interesting, however, is that on the second utterance, when they repeated themselves, the largest change was found at Macy's, the middle class. You'll see here, only 20% said floor the first time, and then almost tripled to over 60% the next time. So he conjectured, he postulated that there's some sort of consciousness, whether it's absolutely conscious or subconscious, of people in the middle class to correct their speech, to form some sort of prestige, because they feel a little self-conscious when they realize they haven't spoken properly. Now, this was in 1966, but this is in no way a novel discovery. So, who here has some knowledge of Greek and can maybe name for me some vowels in Greek? I think there are 7. Alpha? Okay, just keep calling them out. Let's see. Alpha.
Epsilon.
Epsilon.
Eta. Iota. Omega.
Upsilon.
Omicron.
There we go. So these are the 7 vowels in Greek. Now, vowels in Greek can also carry this diacritical mark, which indicates that they're supposed to be pronounced with rough breathing. So you'll hear ha, he, ha, hu, ho, if they have that mark. There are also 2 consonants in Greek, which are aspirates. Can anyone name those?
Rho.
Right, huo, and?
Ki.
Chi, right. So, this is how a lot of Greek is pronounced. Now, Latin does not have these same aspirates, but my favorite Roman poet, Catullus, writing 2,000 years ago, was famous for 2 kinds of poetry, love poetry and hate poetry. This next example is one of the latter. This is based on my translation of this poem. In the interest of time, I'm just going to gloss over this. He was making fun of a guy named Arius, who, in an attempt to sound refined, would aspirate speech when it wasn't appropriate. So I've tried to approximate in English what he would say. Instead of the word opportunity, he would say opportunity. Instead of ambush, hambush. And the punchline is, he goes to Syria, and so the Ionian way is no longer Ionian, but Hionian. What I want to point out in addition to the pronunciation, is the comment that Catullus makes about Arius's family. He mentions that his relatives, his ancestors, had all spoken this way, specifically his free uncle. That makes the point that Arius was not of the upper class and was not of the lower class. He was of the slave class a few generations ago, and now he's sort of that middle class. So again, this supports Labov's conjecture that it is the middle class that wants to correct, or in this case, hypercorrect, their speech. Now, I have another poem that makes a little bit more sense in English. Who here can give me a great Cockney accent? Come on. Anyone? Alright, I guess I'll take this one. So this is about a guy named Sir Ary. Sir Ary, though lately created a knight, is unable to order his H's aright. He expounds wise views of a man of affairs, or explains how he hates aristocracy's hairs. To his mother, nay Hawkins years, I expect, this unpleasant, invincible vocal defect. His victims have looked for a respite at least, while Sir Ary is occupied doing the haste. But alas for our hopes, you've not heard the news? What? Sir Ary finds India elishly odd. Once again, we have all these H's where they're not necessary. Affairs, aristocracies, hairs, the heast, and of course the punchline, India. But once again, there is a mention made of Sir Ary's family. His mother, maiden name Hawkins, clearly the author of this poem, considers this to be a poor recommendation of his social status. Therefore, in an attempt to make himself sound more dignified, he's affecting his speech, and doing so improperly. Now, I'm guilty of this myself. I'm from Texas. I say y'all all the time. If you ever hear me talk to my mother or my grandma on the phone, it's even more pronounced, or I'm using expressions of politeness, thank you much, I have more of an accent. Can anyone share with me when they've noticed themselves either correcting their speech or someone they know correcting their speech, even sounding foolish doing so? Jeremy?
I don't know if this is exactly what you want, but I noticed that my Boston accent comes out when I get frustrated or something. If I raise my voice, or even if I'm just generally frustrated, it'll come out more than normal speech.
So do you ever try to affect that and change it to sound less Boston-y?
Not really, because I didn't really. I don't really have it all that much. Just.
Naomi?
So I'm not quite sure, but my dad has like a huge Boston accent, and one story that we always tell is he was asking my little cousin how was the party, but he said how was the potty, and she thought he meant how was the potty, so she started talking about oh, it was great, I sat on the toilet.
Sounds like a fun party.
And then that's what my dad said. He's like, that sounds fun.
My native accent is a little bit unusual. I'm from Minnesota, so if you've ever seen the movie Fargo, that's kind of a Minnesota
Oh, you
accent.
betcha.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing with Jeremy. My husband has noticed that, when we go back and visit relatives, or if I'm excited, I will fall into that Swedish sort of, lilt that they have in their voice.
Great. Anyone else want to share? Grace?
Being from Illinois, when I talk to my mom on the phone, it comes out a lot more. And going to school in Texas, I got pretty much hung to dry because I had this northern accent and couldn't say Wisconsin the same way they did. It comes out Wisconsin, and I literally cannot say it the way that they tried to make me say it.
Anyone else? Alright, well I think it's only appropriate we close the same way we open with another clip from Family Guy.
Ooh, you got some pie, huh? Can I have a piece? Sure. Ooh, let me have some of that Cool Whip. What'd you say? You can't have a pie without Cool Whip. Cool Whip? Cool Whip, yeah. You mean Cool Whip? Yeah, Cool Whip. Cool Whip. Cool Whip. Cool Whip. Cool Whip. You're saying it weird. Why are you putting so much emphasis on the H? What are you talking about? Just saying it. Cool Whip. You put Cool Whip on pie. Pie tastes better with Cool Whip. Say whip. Whip. Now say Cool Whip. Cool Whip. Cool Whip. Cool Whip. Cool Whip. Cool Whip. You're eating hair.
That's good. Alright. Any further questions? Alright, thank you. Alright, feedback, let me have it. Grace? Yes.
I think at the beginning you're really excited and that was awesome, but your beginning speech you were really kind of fast, I think. So if you kind of slowed down, like took a breath, and because you were getting all the words out and everything was sounding great, but just kind of breathe a little bit more,
Okay.
relax into it.
How was I time-wise? I was speaking fast on purpose
Perfect.
because...
Perfect. You're
Really?
9:30.
Maybe
Oh.
like
The
30
9:50.
seconds over or something, but it was fine.
I had 9:30 on the recording when you finished.
Oh. Yeah, so if I spoke any slower, I might not... I didn't know how participative people were going to be, so I was going for the 10-minute mark, but thanks. Steve?
Yeah, I like how you tied the data in. I thought that was good. It was probably just me, but I wasn't quite sure what the data was saying. I was left thinking, so is that the higher class people that are not affecting? But when you got to the Catullus part, you made it clear. But
Okay.
at the data part, I was a little confused. But I liked how you brought the data in.
Okay. Steph?
I really liked how you managed to connect something modern with something back then, which I think can be really difficult for Latin. The only thing that I think might have helped a bit is if you stated exactly what you were doing in the very beginning. I mean, we obviously figured it out quickly, but I think it might have helped us like focus in a little more.
Okay.
The question that you asked about people's own like experiences with speech and stuff, once people got started talking, like it ended up being a pretty good anecdote thing, but it seemed like when you asked it, people were kind of hesitant. They didn't quite understand what you were getting at.
Okay.
So I don't remember word for word what you said or how to correct it, but maybe try and make that as explicit as possible, like what you're trying to ask for.
I did kind of forget to, say not just personal stories, but personal stories when maybe you had to correct your own speech.
You did say that. I don't think anybody picked up on it, though.
I don't think I did. I think
You did.
Oh, okay. If it says-
We got video.
We got the evidence right here. Anyone?
I thought maybe the transition between the things might have been a little clearer. I felt like I didn't understand exactly where you were going at certain points. Like the very beginning was rushed, I thought, but then you went to the Family Guy, then to the study, then to the Greek, then to the Catullus. So maybe just in between each one to say, here's more more examples of this or something.
Okay.
I thought it was a little, but I'm also very slow.
Jeremy?
Well, more on that, and this could just be me being slow too. At the very beginning, before the first clip, when I felt like it was a little rushed, more than being a little rushed, I didn't quite understand what we were going to talk about. Like you said, the words, like hypercorrection, but maybe a little, like one more sentence of explanation could have helped.
Okay. Sean?
At first I thought your lesson would be a little bit too complicated, for a high school student, but as you got into it and did your explanations, it started to become clear, and I believed it would be understandable. I liked the Greek lesson, and I love the way you read the Sir Harry poem. So that was neat. That really brought it together, where you were going with them.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Wait, in your Greek question, were you going for a fee too? Because you also do that? Or I didn't.
That's a fricative. It's not really an aspirate.
Oh, okay.
Well, it is an aspirate. I guess it's not guttural though.
Oh, I don't remember the difference. But
A fricative is when you have air moving,
okay.
and an aspirate is the H sound more commonly, and then the guttural is anything in the throat, like the vocal and the chi.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.